top 5 IAM projects to land your first cybersecurity role. If you're trying to get your first cybersecurity job, stop building random projects that have nothing to do with the job you're applying for. Because here's the problem. You can spend hundreds of hours building a network scanner, setting up Kali Linux, or doing CTFs, and then applying to IAM jobs where the company wants someone who understands users, permissions, Active Directory, authentication, and access control. So today, I'm going to give you 5 IAM projects that you can actually build, put on your resume, talk about in the interview, and use to prove that you understand identity security works. And the best part, you don't need to be an IAM engineer to start building them. What's up, everyone? If you're new here, my goal is to help you transition into cybersecurity and understand what it actually takes to get hired. I'm an IAM engineer, and one of the biggest things that I've learned throughout my career is that employers don't want to see that you've watched cybersecurity videos or passed a certification. They want to know, can you actually do the job? And that's where projects come in. If you've never worked in IT before, you're probably thinking, what exactly is an IAM project? Don't worry. IAM stands for Identity Access Management. In simple terms, IAM is about making sure the right person has the right permissions for the right reasons. Think about your job. When you start working somewhere, you probably get an email address, a computer account, access to certain applications, and maybe a badge. But you don't get access to everything in the company. That's IAM. And companies need to manage that process securely. So let's get into the 5 projects. And I'm gonna give you these in order of difficulty so you can start number 1 and work your way up. Project 1, building an Active Directory lab. If you're completely new to cybersecurity, Active Directory might sound intimidating, but here's the easiest way to think about it. Imagine a company has 5,000 employees. You can't manually manage every employee's computer and access individually. Instead, the company uses a system that keeps track of users, groups, computers, and permissions. That's essentially what Active Directory is. So your first project is going to be to create your first own miniature company. You can create fictional employees. Let's say you create John in accounting, Sarah in human resource, Mike in IT, and Jessica in marketing. Then you create departments and groups. For example, accounting group, HR group, IT group, marketing group. Now you can assign permissions. Maybe accounting can get access to financial resources, HR gets access to employee information, IT gets elevated administrative privileges, and marketing gets access to marketing resources. Now you're not just watching a video on YouTube about Active Directory, you're actually managing identities. And this gives you something you can talk about during interviews. You can say, I built an Active Directory lab where I created users, organizational units, security groups, and role-based permissions. That's significantly more powerful than just saying, I watched some Active Directory tutorials. And here's the important part. Document everything. Take screenshots. Explain what you built. Create a simple GitHub repository for projects and for project documents. That becomes the evidence of your skill. Project number 2, user onboarding and offboarding. Here's a real world scenario. Imagine you work at a company with 2,000 employees, someone gets hired. The IAM team needs to create the account, add them to the correct groups, give them access to the applications, and make sure they receive the appropriate permissions. Now imagine that person leaves the company. You have to remove their access. This is called deprovisioning. And this is extremely important because imagine someone leaves the company, but their account stays active. That account can be used to access some of the company's systems. That's a security problem. So here's your project. Create a fictional company and build an onboarding and offboarding workflow. For onboarding, employee gets hired, account gets created, department is assigned, security groups are assigned, and access is granted. For offboarding, account gets disabled, group memberships are removed, access is revoked, and the account is documented. Now here's where you can take this project to another level. Use PowerShell to automate some of the process. PowerShell is Microsoft's scripting language for automating administrative tasks. Instead of manually creating 20 accounts, you can just write a script that creates the accounts based off items in a spreadsheet. Now you're combining IAM, Active Directory, and automation. And that's a much stronger project because now you're demonstrating that you don't just understand identity, you understand how to make identity management more efficient. Project 3 is role-based access control, also called RBAC. And this is one of the most important IAM concepts that you can learn. Let's say you work at a hospital. You have 3 employees, a receptionist, a nurse, and a doctor. Should all 3 people have the same access? Absolutely not. The receptionist may need access to scheduling. The nurse may need access to patient records, and the doctor may need access to additional clinical systems. Instead of giving each person individual permissions, you can create roles: receptionist, nurse, doctor. Then you assign permissions to those roles. That's RBAC. Your project should simulate this. Create different departments, create different roles, assign permissions to each. Then test what each user cannot access. And here's the part that makes this project very valuable. Create a scenario where someone has too much access. Then identify the problem and fix it. This demonstrates something that employers care about: least privilege. Least privilege means giving someone only the access they actually need. Not more, not less, just what they need to do their job. If you can explain RBAC and least privilege during an interview process, you're already demonstrating a fundamental understanding of IAM. Project number 4 is going to be access reviews. Here's another scenario. Imagine you worked for a company for 5 years. During those 5 years, you changed departments. You received new responsibilities, you joined different projects, and you've accumulated access. This is called access creep. You may have permissions today that you don't actually need anymore. Companies need to periodically review access and ask, does this person need these permissions? That's an access review. So for your project, create a fictional company with 20 to 30 employees, give them different roles and permissions, then create an access review spreadsheet. Include things like employee name, department, roles, applications, access level, and manager. Should access remain? Then identify unnecessary permissions. Maybe someone in marketing has access to applications for accounting. Maybe a former manager still has access to administrative permissions. Your job is to identify those problems and recommend removing the access. And now you've created a project that demonstrates identity governance, access control, least privilege, risk management, and compliance. That's a great project to discuss during the interview. Project number 5, build a PAM lab. This is a project that I would recommend for also my people in PAM. PAM stands for Privileged Access Management. Let's simplify it. Not every account in each company is equally as dangerous. A regular employee account may be able to read emails, but an administrator account could potentially create users, change security settings, install software, or make changes to the entire environment. That account is extremely powerful. PAM is about protecting those powerful accounts. Think of it like a bank vault. You don't give everyone in the bank the combination to the vault. You protect the combination. You monitor who gets access, you control when they get access, and you keep a record of what happened. That's essentially the idea behind PAM. For your project, create a lab where you identify privileged accounts. Create a normal user, create an admin account. Then demonstrate the difference between regular and privileged access. You can also simulate things like temporary administrative access, password rotations, privileged account monitoring, and logging administrator activities. If you eventually want to work with a platform like CyberArk, this type of project gives you the conceptual foundation you need. And here's the important thing. You don't necessarily need to become an expert in CyberArk before applying to your first IAM role. Understand the problem first, then learn the tools to solve that problem. Now let's talk about why these projects can actually help you get hired. When you apply for an IAM analyst or IAM engineering position, you may be competing against people who already have professional experience. You can't compete with their years of experience, but you can demonstrate that you actually practice the skill. Instead of saying, I know Active Directory, you can say, I built an Active Directory environment where I created users, security groups, organizational units, and role-based permissions. Instead of, I understand IAM, you can say, I created an employee onboarding and offboarding and automated account permissions using PowerShell. That's a completely different conversation. These projects can help you demonstrate skills for roles like IAM analyst, IAM admin, IAM engineer, identity governance analyst, PAM analyst, PAM engineer, and security analyst. The biggest mistake, don't build these IAM projects and just put them on your resume. Build them so you can explain them. If an interviewer asks, why did you create these security groups? You should be able to answer. If they ask, why did you remove this user's access? You should be able to explain least privilege. If they ask, what happens when an employee leaves? You should understand the identity lifecycle. Your project isn't valuable because you just have screenshots. It becomes valuable because you understand what you've built. So here's what I would do if I was starting from zero. First, build the Active Directory home lab. Second, creating the onboarding and offboarding workflow. Third, build an RBAC model. Fourth, create an access review. And fifth, build a basic PAM lab. And don't try to complete all 5 in one weekend. Start with one, document it, put it on GitHub and create a portfolio page. Then move to the next one. After completing all 5, you'll have something much more valuable than a list of courses. You'll have a portfolio demonstrating that you understand how identity security works. If you're trying to transition into cybersecurity, don't just collect certifications. Build things, because your goal isn't just to convince an employer that you can memorize cybersecurity terminology. Your goal is to show them that you can solve problems. If this video helped you, hit that like button, comment, and subscribe down below. If you want more videos teaching you exactly how to break into IAM, and if you're interested in transitioning into cybersecurity, check out the community where we help people learn skills, build projects, and work to their first IAM role. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.